The test had almost come to an end, and only one person had passed, but all eyes now turned to Lancer. Gasps spread as his martial avatar continued to expand, climbing past 80,000 meter, its sheer size leaving onlookers at a loss for word. One spectator remarks that Lancer was still only 10th level, yet even an 11th level might not achieve this. Since everyone knows that the size also represents potential, which obviously gained him some fans all around. At the same time, the Dean was watching his back, praised his progress and declared that this time he's set to challenge the sunlight level. Far notices Marquis Lano must have adjusted genes for his son and admits Lancer's genes have now reached a new peak. Lu Sheng finally understands what Far meant earlier about gene-editing warriors. Though a funny man came to mind, only briefly amuses him before slipping away. Far suddenly remarks that Lancer was pulling his strength inward, clearly preparing to spin the wheel. Energy condenses around him as he steps forward, hands pressing onto the massive thing. Muscles tighten. A powerful push sends the stars on the wheel flaring to life, and in mere seconds, it reaches 7 stars. But he still had more in him. The shockwave forces many to shield themselves as he keeps pushing, drawing more comments when he reached 9 stars. Even the Dean, now visibly excited, praises him twice before declaring that Lancer's bloodline had not only reached moonlight, but its peak of 9 stars, which he said was a feat unseen in thousands of years. Far is equally stunned, explaining that 9 stars is the very limit of extraordinary physique for most people, and that compared to Morningstar, moonlight was like an elephant to an ant, let alone with 9 stars. Just as everyone marvels at his talent, Lancer launches his final strike on the wheel, remarking that it still wasn't enough. Energy bursts from his third eye, and with a low growl, the entire wheel goes dark. For a moment, it seems the wheel has stopped, but under his push, it begins to turn again. This time, flames erupt in its center as immense energy cascades down from above. The Dean, nearly trembling, declares it the light of sunlight. The golden glow quickly stains red under the blaze. He announces that Lancer had shattered his own limits, breaking through to 1-star sunlight. As his avatar faded, exhaustion weighed heavily on him. His bodyguard dashed forward to catch him before he fell. Seeing it was only fatigue, the guard's worry eased, and he remarked that Lancer had worked hard, certain Lord Lano would be proud. Lancer, still breathless, was nonetheless elated with his success. The guard knew that even if his own strength surpassed Lancer's now, only powerful bloodlines and perfected genes could forge a warrior of such caliber, and note a gulf in family heritage that he himself could never cross. The crowd fell silent, conceding that Lancer had not only maxed his bloodline, but had broken through to sunlight right there before their eyes. For many, the gap between themselves and someone born into such deep-rooted power now felt immeasurable, a height they might spend their whole lives just to dream about. Meanwhile, the Dean stepped forward, clapped Lancer on the shoulder, and told him that he had done well, certain his father would finally feel his efforts had paid off. News of the feat raced across the Yamu sector, stirring high-ranking officials into action. In the Yamu Federation's parliament, several members had already convened. The elder presiding over the chamber reflected on the Marquise's young son, whose talent had just been tested, regretting only that he wasn't from their own sector. Even so, he insisted they honor Marquis Lano with a celebratory banquet for Lancer. A sudden voice urged them to wait. The elder turned to see a woman smiling, then told everyone it wasn't so certain. She spoke of a surprise she had prepared, adding that the true prodigy in her eyes and the person is none other than our boy. Under the skeptical stares of the counselors, she continued, revealing he had been brought over from the White Mist sector by her subordinate Far and now belonged to their sector. That caught the elder's interest. He wanted to know the young man's strength. The woman admitted she wasn't sure, but suspected it would be no less than Lancer's, likely sunlight level. The claim jolted the elder to his feet as he declared it had been far too many years since the Yamu sector had seen such a prodigy, and he would personally go to the testing site. Back at the testing site, Far received the order and immediately prepared to send Lu Sheng up, excitement and expectation written on his face, and he knew this was the perfect moment to deliver results. However, few in the crowd paid attention. Most assumed the main event had already passed and saw little reason to watch. But Far asserted that Lu Sheng was at least sunlight level, and noted that our boy is a natural-born talent. With high officials on their way, it was the perfect time for a spectacle. A few in the audience noticed the pair. One recognized Far, recalling his baron's title granted only a millennium ago, and wondered why he had come to join the commotion. Another guessed he might see potential in the young man beside him, but doubted anyone could compare to Lancer. Ignoring everyone, Far silently pinned all his hopes on Lu Sheng. Lu Sheng, meanwhile, realized his psychic energy couldn't pierce the interior of the testing device, saying a mysterious energy was blocking his perception. He didn't dwell on it. Instead, he sliced open his palm and pressed it to the great wheel. There was nothing left to study. This was simply a matter of doing it. Golden energy burst outward, flooding the wheel until it changed color. Far, meanwhile, swore he saw the wheel turning red. Flames coiled around Lu Sheng, and with a casual push, a deafening boom cracked the air. A pillar of fire roared skyward, soaring thousands of meters high, eclipsing even the wheel itself. Every head turned, and Far's body trembled. He was certain this was sunlight level and much stronger than Lancer. The crowd erupted in confusion, struggling to grasp what they were witnessing, not to mention they didn't even know who our boy is. Right then, Lancer and the Dean were struck silent. Lancer stared in disbelief, his voice trembling as he wondered what kind of power could shine with such a phenomenon. Meanwhile, the Dean gulped, remarking that this young man was no ordinary person, and was shocked to see him reaching sunlight level as well. Despite everyone being stunned, our boy's expression stayed the same, and if anything, there was a flicker of disdain, as if sunlight level was nothing remarkable. Then, without warning, an even greater surge of power drew toward him. For him, this test was only the beginning. The flames roar to life once again, and raw energy pools faster. However, he still seems unsatisfied. A sharp roar split the air as he pressed harder with one hand. From within the blaze, several three-legged golden crows emerged, their heat distorting the space above. Someone in the crowd pointed upward in awe and fear. Perhaps on this very day, many finally understood what it meant to have real talent. A towering martial avatar loomed into existence, so vast that most had never even imagined such a sight. Even Far, who thought he had seen it all, was in complete shock. The giant avatar stood at a staggering 160,000 meters, twice his own, not to mention that Lu Sheng was still only 9th level. Beside him, the Dean collapsed to the ground, panic rising as he pieced together what this might mean. He asserted our boy was only 9th level, and a terrifying thought came to mind, but he never finished his sentence. Lu Sheng raised a hand, calming the wheel until it stilled. The avatar, he decided, was too large to control efficiently, so it was better to draw all that strength into himself. In an instant, the avatar condensed and circled close to his body. Then he declared it was time to continue. The wheel spun again under his push. This time it was much faster. Watching him manage it with one hand, Lancer coughed a mouthful of blood. His guard rushed to hold him as blood seeped from his nose and eyes, and he heard Lancer say, "It's impossible." The guard stayed silent, but inwardly remarked that Lancer's two-handed effort couldn't match the speed Lu Sheng achieved with just one. The rotation quickened, shockwaves rippling outward and even rattling nearby ships, the very ones carrying the high-ranking officials. On board, the woman notes that no word could capture the scope of this strength. She had expected a rare talent, and she had completely underestimated our boy. One counselor, seeing the wheel had reached 9 stars without stopping, laughed aloud and declared it was the peak of sunlight level. He ordered the ship to accelerate, eager to meet Lu Sheng in person. By now, Lu Sheng could sense the limit of what one hand could do. Still curious about what lay beyond sunlight, he decided to push further, though he had no wish to break the device. He urged the wheel to hold together, then pressed down with both hands, this time unleashing his techniques as well. A surge of energy, several times stronger than before, tore through the surroundings. Lancer shouted in disbelief, asserting that even in their main star system, there were barely a handful who could surpass sunlight. So how could Lu Sheng possibly achieve this? His guard echoed the sentiment, but the wheel continued to spin, faster and heavier, until it began to shudder, and people began hearing the grinding clatter of its inner gears. Some wondered if it had finally reached its limit, and Lu Sheng himself considered the possibility. But the thought didn't slow him. Rather, it got him even more excited. He still had more in him, and he refused to accept this as his peak. If it wasn't enough, then he would simply push harder. Inside him, 10,000 immortal cells roared to life, their power flooding into his hands. Under the crushing pressure, the cells began to transform. However, what our boy didn't notice was that at the center of his brow, the very first immortal cell he had ever forged surged to the surface.